I'm trying to say,
Well, we're starting now.
More profile, that's what I mean.
Don't worry about it. This is John Solari, the Method Actor Speaks. Now we have two special guests here, and I'm really blessed. I'm really blessed that you guys are here. You got that great look, Carmine. Carmine, I want you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Carmine Caridi.
Okay, and Tommy?
Tommy Gatto.
Gatto? How do you spell that?
G-A-T-T-O, Gatto.
Oh, Gatto.
Tommy the Cat.
Tommy the Cat, is that what your name? I was given the name John by a guy named Fat Carmine in 1969. You know, we all had. Did you have a nickname?
Yeah.
Carmine.
Don Bep Pinevacci was my grandfather, and I talked so much they gave me the name Don Bep. That was it.
Don Pepe, that's a great name.
The whole thing is Don Bep Pinevacci Dos, which means a face, you know,
Yeah.
bold.
Bold. Well, you were a bold actor.
I was a cute kid. I got to tell you that.
I bet you were from the neighborhood. And Tommy, what about you? What do you do for?
I born and raised in a small town called Lodi, New Jersey.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Very proud of Lodi. It's a famous town, infamous town, but I had a great childhood growing up. Typical East Coast Italian. My dad drove a truck for years.
What does that mean? A typical East Coast Italian?
I think predominantly the city itself was blue-collar workers, hard-working people. I'm fourth generation in Lodi. My great-grandfather started there and had a farm, and my other great-grandfather had a farm, and that's how my grandparents met each other, and a little bit of a history there. And it was a great upbringing. It was a wonderful suburban neighborhoods, Italian people, you know, sauce on Sunday, great neighborhoods.
You call it sauce, we call it gravy.
Yeah. You guys want to assimilate. I have a big argument with that all the time.
I call it sauce too, Tommy.
Right. The Americans want to make it gravy. I just order gravy in Italy, see what you get.
I know.
Anyway. But I'm very proud of my Italian heritage. I'm the vice president of the Sons of Italy Hollywood here.
Oh.
And our 10th anniversary just went by, and it's a wonderful organization. Carmine is one of our honorary members. We've had Joe Montagna, Joe Bologna, we've had a lot of great speakers. Bobby Costanza.
Yeah, you guys had. Yeah.
So, you know, great stuff. I mean, I met Carmine several years ago, and then we ran into each other a few years back, and I said, hey, why don't you come and speak at the Sons of Italy? He goes, I'd be honored to, and it was great, and we've been friends ever since.
And they feed you too.
They feed you, yes.
And it was a wonderful experience. We become very, very close friends. My daughter's like his granddaughter now, and I'm really proud to be part of his family. And he's been a good mentor for me. When I get an acting gig, I go to Carmine and say, hey, you know, I'll read with you, I'll help you out, Tommy, whatever it is. So I didn't come here to become an actor. 1987, my wife and I, my ex-wife now, but my wife and I came out here, and I've been in the insurance and financial business for 28 years. Started back in New Jersey. I had a law enforcement career back in New Jersey prior to that. But I decided to do something else, and I became a financial planner, financial advisor. And have a good career, still going strong with that. I never came here to be an actor. I know Danny Aiello as well. When I was a kid, 18 years old, him and Joe Pecoraro used to come to the diner.
Joe Peck, yeah.
Fort Apache to Bronx. They used to come to the Franklin Diner, and Joe Peck's brother-in-law was one of my closest friends. And all these actors used to come in all the time, so that's when I met Danny. And so when I was coming to California, I ran into Danny at the Paramus Park Mall. He goes, get a hold of Joe Peck, he'll set you all up. I'm an insurance guy, I'm not an actor.
He's a good actor.
So,
he's a good actor.
I bet she is, yeah.
Well, what happened was, I never came here to become an actor. I'm playing my song. No,
that's what I always do.
Tommy, tell me that thing about when I was off an audition and you came along.
Oh yeah, Carmine recently was offered this audition. He goes, Tommy, could you drive me? I said, sure. So he's reading it, he's looking at the breakdown, he goes, you know there's a guy in here that you could play? So I grabbed the casting, and I says, this could be me. She goes, why don't you read for it? I read for it, I didn't get it, but you know, it was pretty good the fact that I did that. But what happened was with me, I like to write, I'm a writer. And I got to tell you a little bit of history. When I was a kid growing up in Lodi, New Jersey, there was a tragic thing that happened in 1963. 2 police officers were killed. They were actually executed in a bar called the Angel Lounge. And it was one of the most heinous crimes in Jersey history, even to this day. Three guys were in a bar in a bar called the Angel Lounge, hence the name, and they were celebrating a burglary they did in New York. And they'd come there and they'd be there. And it was part of a circuit. They would go around these different bars. Well, the cops got a call that they thought it was fireworks. So this big, tough gentleman named Pete Voto, rest his soul, he was a detective sergeant, really tough guy. And this young rookie ride-along, Gary Tedesco, got the call, and they went to this bar. And as they got there, these criminals, these two guys, Tommy the Rabbi Trantino, who is still alive from Brooklyn, half Italian, half Jewish, hence the name. Frank Falco, another guy, they were both cons together. And a guy named Tony Winks Casarino, and he was there too. But Falco and the Trantino were the guys that actually did the damage. They get the cops in there, and make a long story short, they got to jump on the cops. They took their gun, his gun away. The rookie didn't have a gun. And they executed them on the floor in this bar. A manhunt ensued. They got one guy in New York. He was killed. And Trantino wound up to get arrested, booked, and they had a trial. He was convicted, sentenced to the electric chair in 1964. Stayed on death row to 1972. And they stopped capital punishment.
Right.
And we, as a policeman there myself, and my boss was Andy Voto, rest his soul, the chief, he also, we always used to march. Whenever this guy went out for parole, all the cops from all over the, New Jersey would come and try to get this guy, keep the guy behind bars. He was supposed to die, they're gonna let him out. So make a long story short, I always had this passion for writing, so in '93 I wrote this treatment, and in 2002 when Trantino left, I wrote the screenplay called The Angel Lounge. And I've had some success with it, trying to get it done. As you know, Hollywood is a bear to get anything done nowadays. Especially I'm a novice, unknown guy. But I've had some good people. Jim Gandolfini, rest his soul, sat down with me and looked at the part for Pete Voto, because he was that big, burly kind of a guy. And I've talked to other people, and Carmine's talked to some people as well.
Excuse me. The heinous crime that you're talking about, it was a sexual thing too.
No, it was no sexual thing. That was the innuendo, see?
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, see, a lot of people had this thing going on, but I had 1,300-page court transcripts
okay.
of all the witnesses. And so, it was kind of like folklore.
If I can interrupt for just 1 minute, what you're talking about, Carmine, there was one in the Bronx where they did.
They had them do each other.
No, he did him, and he banged the guy in the ass.
No, I heard that they oral sex.
No.
They
This happened. I think it had to do with Bobby Hopburn.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, can I ask something? Now, Frank, I knew Falco. And
Speak up a little bit, okay?
They knew Falco, and they traced him to the Manhattan Hotel.
Right.
And they just bursted into the room and killed him. They didn't say.
Well, there's even more detail than that because of my connection with the police force. Well, I can't say, how I wrote it was basically how it happened. Those cops are gone now, but they caught him sleeping. They had his gun. They walked in with the steel.
But you shot him, right?
Back in those days, you could do that.
They made him pay for how those two cops.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Back in those days, you could do that.
And this guy was a tough guy.
I mean, you could shoot a guy 20 times and nobody say nothing.
Yeah. Well,
Today you can't do that.
Civil Liberties Union tried to get this thing done, and
But Falco was a bad man.
Yeah.
they both were bad. I mean, and this guy's walking free now. Tommy the Rabbi Trantino was in Camden, New Jersey, walking free, paroled after 38 years behind bars. But, well, isn't that enough? No, the guy was supposed to die. The way he killed those cops, he was supposed to die. But anyway, from writing the screenplay, I meet some producers. I meet this guy from the Hallmark Channel, became a friend of mine, Kyle Clark. And he says to me, "Do you ever act?" And I go, "No, I've never acted. I mean some extra work and stuff." He goes, "No, but you're a character." He says, "Anytime I'm going to get something in the future, I'm going to use you." 2004, my mom, rest her soul, passes away. My cousins are here. I'm at a restaurant out in Agora Hills. And Kyle Clark comes walking. He goes, "Tommy, I'm sorry about your mom." He goes, "We're shooting this Jane Doe series with Leah Thompson and Joe Penny. It was a regular monthly 2-hour movie that they were doing on Hallmark." He goes, "We got this one, this one show we're doing. It's called Till Death Do Us Part. It's all about an Italian wedding and mafia guys." He goes, "You'd be great." He says, "But I don't have anything, like a special part for you." I said, "You want to be an extra?" He says, "Nah, I'm busy." My mom. So 2 days later, I get a phone call from Armand Mastriani, the director, says to me, I want to put you, he said, I wrote a scene in for you with Leah Thompson. I said, you're kidding. You know, he says, no, he says, Kyle tells me you're good. I want you to, you know, do this scene. So I go, I get my SAG card for the first time. I'm Taft-Hartley. I'm all excited, right? So I'm looking for my mark, and this is my first scene. And the scene is this big wedding, and I'm outside in the back, and Leah Thompson is dressed like Sharon Moonstruck, black hair, curly, chewing gum like an Italian chick, and she's walking by undercover as an FBI agent. So I play a guy named Gino. So I'm sitting there in my suit, and she walks by, and the whole thing was I'm trying to pick her up. Hey, how you doing? So I do the first take. It was okay. I do the second take. You talk about method actors. It was okay. The third one, I said, you know what? I'm doing this wrong. I'm just going to be Tommy Gatto, pretending I'm in a joint, and as this chick walks by, I'm going to hit on her. So sure enough, I do the scene, and they yell cut, and Armand comes out, and he's got tears in his eyes, and Leah Thompson's laughing, and Joe Pesci, and Joe Bowl, they're all watching this, and they're all cracking up. I go, is my zipper open? Why is everybody laughing? Armand goes to me, he says, that was so natural. He says, you were so funny. Frank Pesci says to me, Tommy, you were hysterical. They wrote in 4 more scenes in the movie for me, and I became like the comic relief of all the Mafia guys. And since then, when I was casted a couple more times in Hallmark Channel, I played a funny limousine driver. I just did a movie last year. I played a cop. What a stretch for me. But I'm getting some roles. I always think I'm going to get the tough guy.
Since we talk about acting, what is that like when you play a cop?
When I play a cop, I just play myself. I mean, after so many years of being a cop, how could you not?
I mean, isn't there a big difference between a New York cop and, say, L.A. cop?
Yeah, but
I mean, the mentality.
The basis is still there. I mean, yeah.
Tell them about the show you just did.
Oh, I just did. You know, I try not to be stereotyped, but obviously, being Italian from New Jersey, I get either I'm the cop or the mob guy, which I've done, you know, a few movies like that, a couple of TV shows. But I just did a TV show, Newsroom. That's on HBO.
Good show.
Yeah, great show. Jeff Daniels and Sam Waterston, who I love from, you know, Law and Order. Great stuff. And I had a scene with the kid Dev Patel, who did Slumdog Millionaire. Nice kid. And it was a funny scene. I play I play a manager of a restaurant, Italian restaurant. He comes in, he's got to use the restroom, and I'm breaking his chops, so it's always this comic relief kind of a thing I wound up getting into, which is okay as long as I get to work. It's all right. Yeah. That's how I became an actor. You know, just meeting the right people, being in the right place. I got an agent who sends me out, and I really appreciate that. And then hanging out with guys like Carmine Caridi, Bobby Costanza, who I know for years, Danny Aiello. I'm in the right company, too. So.
Do you think being a cop helped you a lot in your acting?
I think being a cop helped me in every aspect of my life.
But I mean, acting-wise, because you had to project something as a cop, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Excuse me, you should read this script.
Well, we're going to talk about it, and I would like your opinion on it in a minute.
It's great.
But I'm thinking, when you said the guy can act, I'm thinking to myself, yes, he can. He's an ex-cop. And they've seen it all. That, you know, the pain.
Of course.
The pain that we went through in life is, I'm a member of the Actors Studio.
Well, Tommy's one of the most interesting men.
Well, yes, he's great in life. But like Martin Landau always told us, the pain that we went through in our life is a gift to the actor.
You bring that in, you bring it into your life. You bring it into your acting.
Right, it's a gift.
When I took acting lessons, and
have you?
Oh yeah, sure. Jeff Besario. I go to Steve Nave, and you know I try to build the craft up a little bit. Hey, I'm going to be in it. I might as well do it right.
Right.
And so when they ask me certain things, or hey, project this, or play this guy, play a role of a father who just lost his son. God forbid, you know, as a father myself, I could be terrible. Yeah. And so.
Carmine's going to be excused for a minute. Keep going.
Okay.
I can raise my hand.
You can raise your hand.
Thank you. God, it's so I'm 80 years old. I can't take it.
And we can keep talking while Carmine's
I
going.
bought the right guy.
He is.
I bought the right guy.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but you know, I use what you said, like my experience as a policeman. My experiences growing up as a kid in the streets of Jersey, that all comes to play anytime I have an acting gig. It's hard not to.
Growing up in Jersey now, you saw both sides,
Yeah.
especially, you know, being Italian. But back then, I guess the other side of the law was looked up to.
Well, it's funny you said that. When I was a rookie cop, my boss, Andy Voto, who lost his brother, you know, from the screenplay, he was a wonderful man. Our families knew each other. His father, my father, and grandfather all drove trucks together. It was a very tight-knit community. But it was so funny because I'm walking the beat my rookie year, and Chief comes by and he says, "Hey, Gatto," he says, "Come on, let's go get a cup of coffee." So I said, "Okay." So we're going to walk for a cup of coffee, and we're walking past the local pastry shop, and a guy walks out, and I know who the guy is. This guy's name was, rest his soul, his name was Louis Streaky Gatto, same last name as mine. And it just happened to be we have the same last name, and he was the local Don at that time. So he says to me, the chief says to me, "You know who this man is?" You know, they shook hands, you know, mutual respect kind of a thing. And I says, "Yes, I do." He goes, "Gatto," he says, "where's your people from?" I says, "Well, my father's grandfather was from Naples, Napolitan." I says, "But I'm mostly Sicilian, I'm Sicilian, 3/4." He says, "We're from Naples too." So that Gatto's Naples, the name came from the same area of Italy that I was. I know I wasn't related to him because in my law enforcement career they had to do a background check and went all the way back to Italy and knew that we weren't related.
They go back that
Oh,
far?
that far? Well, I had a federal job before I became a city guy.
Oh.
So the federal job that I had,
Secret Service.
yeah, Secret Service.
Wow.
I worked at the White House 1977, 78 for Jimmy Carter. But so when they did that background check, the state police came to my house sitting there with my mom and dad. He goes, "You related to Streaky?" I go, "Who?" "Who?" But then I found out who he was. And, being in New Jersey, I have a lot of friends who were, as we grew up, they went their way, I went my way. I had a lot of friends who were connected up guys. And, I did my job. I always did my job, without any prejudice.
That's it's a Secret Service too. We learned so much more about that. I mean, you do have a history for the
Great history.
and this screenplay that. Can you want to sit down?
You want me to?
Yeah, of course I want. Because I would love for you to ask them a few questions.
Tommy's doing so well.
Well, no, I want to ask if you want to ask them a few questions about the screenplay.
The screenplay is a passion I've had. I've had
I read it. It's good. It's very good.
a lot of people, some people back east say, you shouldn't do it, but
Why
well,
that?
It opens up old wounds,
Well-
okay? The families obviously probably, but here's the deal. In 1993, when I decided to do this, I went back east for a vacation. And I always go see my old boss, Andy Voto, the chief, rest his soul. And I said to him, "Andy," I says, "Look, I'm in Hollywood now, I live there, hang out there, and I always had a passion for writing." I says, "I'd like to do the story." And he looked at me, and he wasn't, he was very positive. He says, "Tommy," he says, "Gatto," he always called me Gatto. He says, "Gatto," he said, "if you tell that story, tell it right, tell the truth."
Oh yeah.
He says, "What they did to my brother and that kid," he says, "tell the truth." And I said to him, "Andy, if I ever do and I have the opportunity, I will." So the control I have and why I did the investigation as far as getting the court transcripts of the trial. I even went as far as to talk to the judge, the Supreme Court Justice, who allowed Tommy the Rabbi Trantino out in 2002 when he sued the parole board. Judge Gary Stein spoke to me on the phone. He gave me a 60-page transcript of why he decided, even though he did not want to let this guy go for what he did. But the rule, the
rules.
law is, if the guy was 30, that's what happened. See, when New Jersey changed from the death penalty, life was the most, serious.
But life only meant, like in New York, was 25 years.
Well, that's it. 30 years for Jersey.
30 years. So you were free after
He
that.
was 8 years. He was still behind bars. So that's how strong the feelings and the passions were. People of New Jersey,
Yeah.
the cops, and the parole board never would let this guy go. But eventually he sued, and this guy decided, you know what? We got to let him go.
Yeah.
So he's been on parole, and he's got himself in trouble a couple of years later, but never went back to jail, still out.
Any repercussions from other officers, any repercussions from guys who were cops?
Did he have any repercussions
No.
from any of the officers?
No, a lot of the guys who get retired are gone. I mean, you know, you're talking about 1963. One of the captains I had, Philly Wagenti, rest his soul, wonderful man. He was one of the detectives that happened. His father was the chief of police, and he was the detective that did the investigation on this. And he was very knowledgeable, gave me a lot of information. A lot of the older cops that I spoke to over time, that I worked with when I was a rookie, when I was a kid, you know, they were able to, you know, give me some information. Some of the cops wouldn't even want to talk about it. The guys that were there when it happened, I couldn't get some of the cops to even talk about it. They were like, they didn't want to talk about it, it was a bad memory, or maybe they screwed up. So there was a lot of, you know, controversy, so I'm stirring some stuff. But every time I speak to somebody, every time I speak to the cops back east, you know, the guys, they want to see the movie done. I mean, they did that movie Hurricane with Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine, you guys may know Ed Losey, the big
Right.
Well,
Ed Losey and I were young
we're friends.
Yeah.
Well,
Ed Losey,
they're his friends.
Ed Losey and I, you know, when I was a bouncer in a nightclub in my college days, Ed Losey would come into the place. And so I'm out here in Beverly Hills, and I said to a friend of mine, I said, Clint Eastwood's daughter was a friend of mine. I said, I need a PR guy. She goes, here's a guy's car. I said, Ed Losey, I know that name. And we hooked up again after all these years. And so Ed said to me, when I told him about he says, that was when Hurricane was just coming out. He was boycotting this, and he was so mad because Losey lived next door to the cop that they depicted in that movie as a racist, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
And it just got under his skin, the lies that Carter told in his book and all this stuff. It really...
He just put all of that on Facebook, you know, Ed Losey did.
Yes, I know. Ed's
good guy.
Ed's adamant.
Great
He's a great guy. He's a great guy for justice, you know. I like Ed Losey a lot. We're friends a long time. So anyway...
Well, so we can get this cycle coming to an end. Who would be your ideal cast for this?
You know, the actor, you know, all the Italian actors I know are too old to play the guys in the scene because my father was 40 years old. Pete Voto was 40 years old. Andy Voto was maybe 42 at the time, or you know, so it was, you know, it's a younger cast. So, you know, like a Mark Wahlberg would be a great Andy Voto because he can play.
How about Matt Damon?
Matt Damon would be a great guy too, but you got to have, you know, I would love to get James Franco or Leonardo DiCaprio to play Trentino because he's a handsome but a psycho killer. And it'll be a great part because it's, you know, this is the kind of guy he is. I think DiCaprio would be phenomenal in that role.
Would Clooney be too old?
Clooney would be too old. Clooney would, you know, these are for younger guys, but the
How
handsome...
about the kid who was in The Rounders with Matt Damon? The other guy.
Norton?
Ed
Norton, yeah.
Ed Norton.
Norton's a great, I mean, these are all great actors, but, you know, they're just too old they're not right for the part, you know? So, this is what, you know, I would think that the ideal cast was. Gandolfini was perfect. If you knew Pete Voto, rest his soul, was a big, burly, tough sergeant, took no shit from anybody. Bad guy, young cops want to emulate him, and the bad guys ran
How
from
about
him.
Dennis Farina? Would he fit?
Dennis, rest his soul.
Rest his soul.
You know, he was
Good friend of mine.
He's, you know, these guys are too old. Pacino, De Niro, they would be
Michael
wonderful.
Imperio from The Sopranos.
Yes.
What about him? Maybe good.
Great.
Yeah.
The kid, yeah, Imperiale, yeah, he would be great.
How about that kid that was in two-family house? Michael, God damn it, I can't. He was in Rounders, he played the bookie, the Shylock. What the hell?
Oh,
There was a kid, Imperioli is another guy. Imperiale, and then the other kid
That's
was...
what I mean.
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi?
No, Buscemi, no.
Buscemi?
He's too old.
Too old. Yeah, it needs to be a young, hot, A-list cast. I think this...
So me and Carmine are out.
I'm out of a lot of things.
Hey, when I wrote this thing, I thought of me of a little cameo part, but I'm getting too old for this thing too, so...
Well,
It's a great story, I think.
that's an interesting quote. Why do they have to be I mean, the story tells, I mean, do they have to
Because
be
the
that
guys
young?
It
the
has-
guys that happen to are young. So
Yeah.
you have
They're young with young families, young kids. You can't have a guy like Carmine having a
No,
family.
no, I know that, no, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
people in their 40s, something like that, could, I mean, I don't know. You would have to, this is a project that should be developed.
Yes.
That's where you need to get into, like a workshop where you can develop it.
There's so many young actors.
What was it, A Hat Full of Rain was developed, you know, at the Actors Studio.
Yeah, my guys are my acting
Yeah.
teacher.
And, you know, I did is, the only play that's never been done, Tommy Zero.
And what about the other one?
Well,
there's
we
one
only
about-
did it once
no,
at Actors Studio.
No, there's one that he wrote was.
The October night of Tommy Zero.
No, there's another one about something about circus.
Oh, I don't know about that one, but I know we did it at
Well,
Actors
you know,
Studio.
he was such a great acting teacher.
It was
And
pretty good.
And it was bomb.
Yeah. And Tony Sirico did it when in New York.
What was that, Tony?
You know, when it was originally called the October Morning.
That's what you call it.
Yeah.
You know, and,
Well, I loved him and the other guy on The Sopranos.
I love this.
When they were in the woods.
He doesn't like it, but
I'm not that fond of it.
It was shot. It was shot in a lot of my
JJ, a lot of
JJ.
flaws in that thing.
Oh, yes, I
First of
know.
all, David changed his name from Cesare
To
to
Chase.
Chase. What is that?
Yeah, well, a lot of them did. You know, they wanted to get work.
But he wrote for a program I was on, Kojak, I think.
Oh, Kojak?
I think he wrote for it, yeah. But here's what I didn't like about it. When I see guys do things that the original guys didn't do in the neighborhood, that bothered me. You know, all the
Like
hand
what?
gestures,
Give us a
like
for
hand
instance.
gestures, like, you know, looks and stuff like that. Trying to act tough guys, and they weren't tough guys.
They weren't tough guys. Well, that's a lot today.
That's why Burt Young is such a great actor,
Yeah,
because he was in that, you know.
yeah, I know that. He was with my cousin.
Is he? I'm sorry.
He was, no, he was with my cousins up in the Bronx.
Oh, yeah, I know what you, yeah, I know.
And, but that is true. And it's like, I mean, you're an ex-cop and this and that. What I see today, like I'm very close with John Sonny Francesi.
Oh,
You know,
he's still, what was he, 95? He's still in
he's
jail?
still in his job. Well, his son ran
Well, the only guy,
worldwide.
he's the only guy that wouldn't squeal.
Never say. Well, he did tell the public. I was with him in 1967 in New Queens, which is old and is not New Queens anymore. When we originally got that case, and he came out and he told them, if you could prove I did this, I'll tell you everything I know about the mob. Until this day,
Yeah, I know.
no one is taken up on him because a lot of people thought it was Robbie Kennedy
Well, I knew,
that set him up.
I know Steve Kuzo, who was cousin by marriage. He was cousin to his wife.
Yeah, so
And
see,
he,
that's
so,
the way, yeah.
so,
We're getting off the subject
Yeah,
back
that's
in
all
there.
right. Yeah.
We're back to the neighborhood there. But I'm gonna actually I keep in touch with Sonny all the time, and until this day I always ask people that
Tell
are
him-
looking into cases,
tell him for
look
me.
into that.
tell him for me.
I definitely will.
That I respect him the most.
Everybody, you know, he stood up. He really. When I was involved one day.
And talk about a tough guy that you.
When I met him, he was 50 years old.
Yeah.
We were together, and he says, he never drank or smoked.
Now he has an
He
adopted
said, I'll live to
son.
be 100.
He has an adopted son, right?
Yeah,
The other
Michael.
guy, yeah.
And but his real son
John.
is the one that wore a wire.
Oh.
Wore a wire twice. But
You
this
know-
time, anyway.
Anyway, I can't screw. My mother would have, if I would have screwed when I was in trouble, she would have come out of the grave and beat the
Beat
shit.
the shit out of you. The things are different today. See, back then you had to earn it.
Because let's say,
Today they're giving it.
if you got to play,
That's why they turn rats.
JJ, you got to play, you got to pay.
Yeah, it's the name of the game. I know, I paid.
That's why I never got involved.
I never got paid. I was in the movies, I wasn't in the movie, the 7-Ups. My friend Richard Lynch was.
Oh, I love him.
Rich.
He died recently.
Yeah, he killed himself.
Did he?
Yeah, but he got a big kick when I told him, those are the guys that busted me.
Yeah.
It was an organized crime task force
Well,
in the Bronx.
the guys that arrested me, and it wasn't because I saw them after I got out, and I walked up to they were sitting down on the bus. I said, "You guys did me a favor. Look how shape I'm in."
You think?
Nice.
It probably kept me alive too.
I had a connected guy in Jersey when I was a kid. I just graduated college. and he knew I was gonna be a cop. And he was one of the nicest guys. I won't mention his name, but he was a sweetheart of a guy.
Dillinger.
No. And he says to me,